You know, there is that very specific, almost universal feeling that descends right around, what, the third week of January?
Oh, bueno.
You've bought the expensive planner, you've color-coded your calendar, you've mentally committed to the whole New Year, New You thing.
Yeah.
But physically?
Physically, you feel like you've been run over by a festive steamroller.
Exactly. It's the classic January paradox.
Yeah.
Your brain is screaming, go, 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 and your biology is just, whispering, please just let me sleep for 3 days.
And we usually just ignore it. We brew a stronger pot of coffee, maybe do a juice cleanse that makes us miserable, and we call it a holiday hangover.
Right, but the research we're diving into today, specifically the Mirelle Longevity Framework,
Yeah.
it suggests we're making a massive strategic error by doing that.
It's a huge mistake. And frankly, this framework completely reframes what January actually is.
How so?
It argues it isn't just a month on a calendar. It's not a social construct for resolutions. It's a biological signal.
It's a signal.
A signal. And if you miss it, you might be missing the most critical window for your long-term health for the entire year.
That is a bold claim. But looking at the source material, they call this process strategic biological recalibration, which, I have to admit, sounds a little bit like something you'd do to a Starship engine.
It does sound a bit sci-fi, doesn't it? But the concept is actually incredibly grounded in physiology. It's all about leveraging a specific moment in time.
So our mission today is to unpack this. We're going to figure out why right now, this exact time of year, is what the source calls a rare biological inflection point.
And we're going to look at how our metabolic, our hormonal, and our cellular systems dictate how we age. Way more than just hitting the gym or, eating a salad.
Okay, so let's start with the why. Why is January biologically different from, say, a random Tuesday in October? Because the Mirelle framework is clear, this isn't just psychological.
No, not at all. It comes down to one word: accumulation.
Accumulation.
Yeah. Think about the physiological load the average person carries over the last 6 weeks of the year. The source breaks it down into this specific cocktail of stressors.
What's in the cocktail?
You've got sleep disruption, inflammatory exposure, mostly from sugar, alcohol, processed foods, altered nutrition, travel stress, which messes with your circadian rhythms, and a very high cognitive load.
The cognitive load part is real. Just navigating family dynamics, year-end deadlines, all of it. It's a lot.
It is. And the framework argues that you arrive in January in a state of being metabolically strained, but, and this is the fascinating part, you are also highly responsive.
See, that seems contradictory, doesn't it? Usually when I'm strained, I'm the opposite of responsive. I just want to shut down.
Well, think of it like a computer system that's lagging because you have 50 tabs open. It's struggling, yes.
Yeah.
But because that disruption is so acute, the system is primed for a reset. If you try to optimize a computer that's already running perfectly, you don't really see much change.
But if you optimize one that's bogged down?
Yeah. The difference is immediate. It's dramatic.
So because we've disrupted our normal patterns, the noise in the system is just louder.
Precisely. The inflammatory burden is identifiable. You can see the cracks in the foundation right now because there's so much weight on it. And the Mirelle framework calls this a distinct advantage. It's a window of opportunity to recalibrate your foundational systems before you start piling the stress of the new year on top.
So we're not just trying to lose the 5 pounds from the cookies. We're trying to fix the foundation so the house doesn't collapse in June.
Correct. And that foundation, according to this research, rests on 3 specific pillars.
Which are?
Metabolic regulation, hormonal signaling, and cellular efficiency.
Okay, let's get into pillar 1, metabolic regulation. Now, I have to stop us here because metabolism is probably the most misused word in the wellness industry.
Oh, absolutely.
When I hear it, I immediately think calories in, calories out. How fast can I burn off that holiday pie?
And that is such an outdated view. The source material is desperate for us to move past it. If you're only thinking about metabolism as a fat-burning furnace, you are missing 90% of the picture.
So how does the Mirelle framework define it then?
They define metabolism as the management system for your entire biological reality.
The management system.
Yes, it's not just burning fat. It's governing energy production, glucose utilization, muscle preservation, inflammatory signaling, and crucially, tissue repair.
That last one, tissue repair, that caught my eye. We don't usually link, slow healing to metabolism.
But it's the primary driver. Every single cell in your body needs energy to repair itself. If your energy distribution system, your metabolism is inefficient, those repairs get deprioritized.
So the body is basically saying, We don't have the budget to fix the roof today.
Exactly. And the source points out that when these pathways are off, aging accelerates across multiple systems at the same time.
Okay, aging accelerates. That sounds pretty ominous. But let's make this tangible. We're not just talking about feeling tired. We're talking about actual damage occurring, right?
Yeah. And the damage is often invisible until it's way too late. The source calls this the invisible phase.
The invisible phase.
Yeah, and a key marker here is insulin resistance.
Which most people associate exclusively with diabetes or significant weight gain.
Right. But long before you ever get to diabetes, insulin resistance is wreaking havoc elsewhere. The Mirelle Framework draws a direct line between insulin and collagen integrity.
Wait, collagen? As in the stuff people put in their coffee to avoid wrinkles?
The very same.
Wow.
High blood sugar and insulin dysregulation lead to a process called glycation.
Glycation.
It's where sugar molecules essentially bind to proteins like collagen and elastin and make them stiff and brittle.
So insulin resistance is literally stiffening your skin from the inside out.
That's it. It alters skin resilience. So you might look in the mirror and think, oh, I need a better moisturizer. But the reality is you have a metabolic problem manifesting as an aesthetic one.
Wow. That is a massive insight. We treat wrinkles as a surface problem, but they're actually a data point for our internal metabolism.
And it goes deeper. Chronic inflammation, another metabolic marker, compromises vascular health. Impaired mitochondrial function lowers cognitive performance.
So that brain fog day.
That brain fog day might just be a downstream effect of metabolic dysfunction. You think you're just getting older, but that's not the whole story.
And the scary part, according to the source, is that these changes dictate the trajectory of aging years in advance.
That's the invisible aspect.
Yeah.
By the time you see the clinical symptom, the diagnosis, the metabolic dysfunction has been running in the background for a decade.
Which is why recalibrating now in January, when the system is so responsive, is crucial. You are interrupting that trajectory.
It's preemptive maintenance. It's like hearing a weird rattle in your car engine. You can turn up the radio.
Which is what we usually do with caffeine and sugar.
Yes, or you can pop the hood, and this deep dive is all about popping the hood.
All right, let's move to the second pillar. We've looked at the engine, now let's look at the software. Pillar 2, hormonal signaling and resilience.
Hormones are the messengers. They are, the Wi-Fi signals of the body. They tell the cells what to do and when.
The text uses a phrase here that I think is critical: subclinical hormonal shifts. I feel like this is where the medical system can sometimes gaslight people.
Oh, absolutely.
You feel off, you get a blood test, and the doctor says everything looks normal.
You're within the normal range. I hear that all the time. The Mirelle Framework attacks this head-on. Subclinical means your levels haven't dropped enough to be a disease state, but they have shifted enough to impact how you feel and function.
So you're not sick, but you're definitely not optimized.
Exactly. You're walking around feeling fine-ish, but under the hood, the signals are getting crossed. Let's look at the players. First, the thyroid. It regulates your metabolic rate. If that shifts slightly, even within the normal range, your energy drops, you feel cold, your hair might thin. Then you have the sex hormones.
Which I assume impacts more than just libido.
Oh, much more. The source highlights that sex hormones, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, they affect muscle mass, fat distribution, bone density, and this is a big one, cognitive clarity.
There's that brain connection again. It seems like every road leads back to cognitive function.
It's all connected, but the biggest disruptor, especially in January, is usually cortisol.
The stress hormone.
Yes, cortisol governs stress adaptation. But here's the mechanism people miss. Cortisol is a resource hog. If your body is producing massive amounts of cortisol because of holiday stress and travel and family drama,
Which it is.
it often does so at the expense of other hormones. High stress can downregulate your sex hormones and thyroid function.
So because I'm stressed, my body decides it doesn't need to build muscle or keep my brain sharp. It just needs to survive the immediate threat.
Precisely. Your body stays in a state of high alert, and the source lists the consequences. Fatigue, central weight gain, that stubborn belly fat mood instability, and reduced physiological resilience.
Physiological resilience. That sounds like the ability to take a punch.
It's exactly that. It means when life throws a curveball, a virus, a bad night's sleep, a stressful deadline, you physically can't handle it as well.
You crash harder and take longer to recover.
Exactly. And I think the most important takeaway from this section was the warning against treating hormones in isolation.
Right, the silver bullet approach.
Yeah.
Oh, I have low testosterone, I'll just take a supplement.
Yes. The source emphasizes that within a longevity framework, hormones have to be integrated into the broader metabolic strategy. If your metabolism is broken, if you are insulin resistant and inflamed, fixing your hormones is like pouring premium fuel into a car with a busted transmission.
It just won't work.
It won't work efficiently.
Yeah.
It's a systemic approach. Everything touches everything else.
You can't optimize the software if the hardware is overheating.
That's a perfect way to put it. And that leads us down to the microscopic level, the hardware itself. Pillar 3, cellular efficiency.
We are zooming in to the absolute root cause.
We are. Because ultimately, you don't age as a person, you age as a community of trillions of cells. If they aren't happy, you aren't happy.
And the star of the show here is the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell.
Yeah.
Right? From 10th grade biology.
It's the classic cliche, but it's true. But the source frames them differently. They aren't just power plants, they are environmental sensors. They determine how effectively your nutrients are converted into energy.
And what happens when that efficiency drops?
Well, it doesn't just mean you run slower. It manifests as deep fatigue, slower recovery from exercise, and diminished muscle tone.
I found this part really striking. The source says cellular stress is often accumulated quietly and just mistaken for normal aging.
That is such a profound point. How many times have you heard someone say or said yourself, oh, I'm just getting older, that's why I'm tired, or I just don't bounce back like I used to?
I say it every time I try to play pickup basketball.
We all do.
Yeah.
But the Mirelle framework challenges that acceptance. It suggests that what we accept as normal aging is often just accumulated cellular inefficiency. It's oxidative stress. It's cellular garbage that hasn't been cleaned out.
So we're accepting a decline that isn't necessarily inevitable, or at least one that could be significantly slowed.
Exactly. The source uses the term long-term aging velocity. I love that term.
Aging velocity.
You have a speed at which you are aging. And targeted interventions don't just relieve the symptom of being tired today, they slow down that velocity. They change the slope of the curve.
That's incredibly empowering. It means we're not just passengers on a decline. We have access to the brake pedal.
But you have to press it. And that requires that strategic biological recalibration we're discussing.
Now, I want to pivot to something that I think is really unique about this source. Usually longevity texts are very clinical. They talk about death and disease.
Right.
But this framework doesn't shy away from vanity. It connects all this hard science back to aesthetics. Because let's be honest, we all want to feel good, but we also want to look good.
And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, the source argues that appearance is a physiological outcome. It's a data display. They call it the biological mirror.
The biological mirror.
Think about it. Your skin is your largest organ. If your internal systems are inflamed, dehydrated, struggling with glycation, your skin is going to show it.
We talked about collagen earlier.
Right. Collagen synthesis relies on metabolic balance. Fat distribution, where you hold your weight, responds to insulin sensitivity. If you are inflamed inside, you will look inflamed outside. Puffy, dull, tired.
So the expensive creams, the serums, the procedures, if we aren't fixing the metabolism, are we just painting over rust?
The source suggests exactly that. They distinguish between alteration and refinement.
What's the distinction there?
Alteration is forcing a change from the outside heavy-handed procedures, things that fight against your biology. Refinement is optimizing the internal systems, so the external result is natural and sustainable.
Okay, so when your systems are optimized.
Aesthetic interventions, if you choose to use them, perform more predictably and with greater durability.
That makes so much sense. If the canvas is healthy, the paint looks better.
Exactly. And this speaks to the order of operations in the framework. You
Yeah.
have to fix the foundational systems, metabolism, hormones, cells, before you add the aesthetic enhancements.
Otherwise, you're just in high-maintenance damage control.
Exactly.
So bringing this all back to January, the source outlines a strategy. And thankfully, it's not starve yourself for 30 days.
No, thank goodness. It's about precision assessment rather than protocol.
Protocol implies a one-size-fits-all rule, right? Everyone does dry January, everyone goes keto.
Right. The Mirelle framework rejects that herd mentality. It says you need to evaluate your specific metabolic efficiency, your hormonal signaling, your inflammatory markers, because my inflammation triggers might be completely different from yours.
So the strategy is stop guessing, get the data, establish a baseline.
Correct. Once you have that data, you build a strategy. The source says this model prioritizes durability, adaptability, and long-term performance. It's about setting a baseline now in this responsive window that supports you for the next 12 months.
It's the difference between sprinting for 2 weeks in January and burning out by February versus training for the marathon of the year.
And that's why they emphasize that metabolic mastery does not rely on intensity. It relies on precision.
That's so counter to how we usually think.
We are so conditioned to think health has to be hard. No pain, no gain.
Right. If I'm not suffering, it's not working.
The source flips that. It says, if you are precise, if you know exactly which lever to pull, you don't need extreme intensity. You just need alignment. You don't need a 2-hour workout if your mitochondria are efficient.
That's a great point. Longevity outcomes compound over time. It's like compound interest for your body.
They really do. Small, precise changes now yield massive results in December.
So let's bring this home. We've covered a massive amount of ground. We've redefined metabolism. We've looked at invisible hormonal shifts, and we've gone deep into the cell. What is the big singular takeaway for the listener right now?
The big takeaway is that preparation determines the outcome. We are in this unique window, this January inflection point.
Right.
You can either drag your accumulated stress and inflammation and cellular debris into February, letting it compound, or you can use this time to stop, assess, and recalibrate.
It's about creating a stable platform.
Yes. Establishing a baseline now stabilizes your energy and cognitive clarity for the rest of the year. You are essentially paying yourself forward.
And avoiding that mid-year burnout where everything just falls apart.
Precisely.
I think that's a perfect place to wrap up the strategy. But before we go, we always like to leave the listener with something to chew on, something provocative that wasn't explicitly on the page.
Well, looking at this source material, here is what stands out to me. We talked about subclinical shifts, those changes happening before you even feel sick.
Yeah.
We talked about how the body is highly responsive right now. The noise is loud.
Right.
So my question to the listener is this. If subclinical shifts determine your aging trajectory years in advance and your body is screaming for a reset right now, what invisible noise are you currently ignoring? What part of your daily exhaustion are you mistaking for normal tiredness when it's actually a biological alarm bell ringing in an empty room?
Oof. That is a heavy question to end on, but a necessary one. Listen to the noise, people.
It's telling you something.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you next time.
Jake, you're